Okay, we're here on Latimer Lake Road. The reason I'm here is because what I wanted to talk about today is my moving to New Brunswick. Now, like I said, we're on Latimer Lake Road, but I will throw up the roads I'm turning on, just so everyone can attempt to follow along if you have a map up with you. But I moved to New Brunswick, specifically St. John, in 2023. It was a move me and my wife wanted to make because we were not where we wanted to be in Toronto. And in terms of that, it was going through COVID and living in a smaller condo, and you realize there wasn't much of anything you could do to get away from each other. I love my wife, and as far as I'm aware, my wife loves me most of the time, sometimes. But realized that at the time, with us both working remote, we had a little more freedom in where we could live. And this all started with actually another couple we knew that was talking about moving out here. And why I'm out here today is I want to show everybody where that first house, known as the Becky house, for the friend's namesake, that kind of put us on the track to moving out here, and moving out here. The one that started it all. It's the first house we initially actually looked into before we started branching out and moving, thinking more seriously about moving out here. Now, obviously, we didn't get this house, but it's one of those things where it's just I kind of wanted just to show everybody where the adventure started. Now, the whole process of moving out here was a lot of discussion back and forth between me and my wife, and the reason we ended up in New Brunswick, and more so St. John, was I was fine just living out of Toronto. I would have moved to Iceland if it was up to me, but my wife did want to stay definitely in Canada and some places where it was easier to get flights back to Toronto, so she could make sure she could get back and forth to visit her friends and family. So that's what ended up being St. John, because it was more affordable to live here. There were still flights you could get out in the summer for $100 or so at the time. It's gone up a little bit. So with those two things in hand, we just ended up picking St. John, New Brunswick. We did look at places like Halifax. When we were already in the process of looking at moving outside of Toronto, like places like London or St. Thomas specifically, but the thing there is we didn't really like it. It was just like, the houses are only $700,000. Not that we could afford that anyway, but we eventually just started branching out, moving farther and farther away from Toronto. That at one point it was like we might as well just go for a whole ass change of scenery. If we're going to have to move that far out anyway, because it's like if it's a 2-hour, $150 plane ride, it's like, what's the matter for 3 hours out, and it's a 3-hour drive at that point. It's just a case of might as well go for the full change of scenery. So on this street is the first house we were looking at. Not right here exactly, I'm just going to get turned around here, but this was the street of the house we first were looking at. We didn't go that way just because we ended up deciding we wanted to live closer to St. John, just because moving from Toronto to St. John, or the St. John area, we just weren't sure if we would be comfortable living that far out in general. So for our first rodeo, we decided just to be a little closer to the city, a little more convenient. We did end up moving to the west side of St. John. Overall, still love it there. But it would be this house coming up on the right was the first one we were looking at. It's a very, simple. It was nice. Nothing specifically or particularly wrong with it. It was just a matter of we decided that this was a little too far out for us, so we decided to move closer to St. John. I know I've said that like 3 times. Sorry, I'm getting my reps in for driving and talking at the same time. So I hope this eventually would get better overall. But that was really it. The whole entire process of moving to New Brunswick, as much of a crazy pain in the ass that it was a lot less of a pain in the ass than I thought it would be overall. The biggest thing was obviously getting a moving company to schlep all our stuff over to across 2 provinces. But once we got that figured out, the rest of it was just organizing ourselves. We got, even everything with getting all our stuff shipped. We lived in a condo, so we didn't have that much stuff, so it made it a little bit more simpler that way, or for me, because it was just a quick pack up in, the 600 square foot condo. So some room, not a lot, but what we ended up just after that, and we drove all the way here straight. That was a very fun time. Got to the top of New Brunswick when it was pitch dark, had no idea what I was doing, and then all I keep seeing is moose sign, moose sign, moose sign. So I got the death grip on the wheel with the 2 dogs and my wife in the car, constantly just going over in my head. But please don't kill everyone. Please don't kill everyone. Please don't kill everyone. Please don't kill everyone. As we go, did end up seeing a moose on the way, which kind of terrifying overall. Again, was pitch black. It was on the side of the road, so nothing crazy happened. But was kind of, looking back at it, it was kind of nice that we were able to just see the moose on the way here and everything, and got that out of the way. I haven't seen one since, personally, but it'll happen, I'm sure. Especially as we, explore more and whatnot. But there's a lot of decisions that go into making moves like that, and you have to really be mentally prepared to make those moves, because there's a lot of differences overall. We got, especially coming from Toronto, there's not as much stuff to do, but when I was making the move, it's like I wasn't out clubbing till 3 a.m. So that's not something I really need. All I really needed personally was a movie theater and a couple good restaurants overall. I didn't see the general appeal of Toronto to me anymore. It's, all the stuff was there. I never really did, so I didn't really need it. And then it was also just a lot more space, in general, and a lot more greenery. And I know there's greenery in Toronto, or Ontario, and for some very nice parks in Toronto. But this is just usually a little more. You step outside. Now you can get that in Ontario. Maybe I'm just being a little bit naive here, but I think making this move is one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I've been a lot happier overall. I can feel my blood pressure hasn't been as high. And it's just been a great couple years, just exploring and living and breathing a little easier overall. It's like I said, a lot of it's going to be if you're going to make a move like this, again, you need to be able to adapt, or very much so do your research. Like I said, I was looking, when we moved, like I said, it was a lot of restaurants. Was there stuff I liked? Could I deal with not having this? I was looking at just little things like that. Even where all the traffic was, and where it was the worst. The different neighborhoods overall. Just looking through, making sure that they were all what we liked. Looking up as much as possible. We did buy the house remote, so there wasn't we didn't physically get there first. I was planning on physically getting out there in March of 2023 on my own, but what ended up happening is we ended up buying the house in February, so we just kind of ended up here kind of on a whim. Very dangerous. Another thing you need to be mentally prepared for to do that. If you're gonna do that, make sure you are prepped, locked, and loaded, and get someone to help you that really knows what to look for. Really takes to heart what you say you're looking for overall, because there could be a lot of stuff that's missed, or there's not a lot of stuff that is thought of overall. But overall, like I said, it was a good restart to our life, and I'm glad I made the change, or we made the change. Sorry, again, I know this is a little rambly. Hopefully, as I get on doing this, I can expect to be a little better at talking and driving at the same time, but we got to be all safe and make sure we are paying attention. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about right now. So thanks everyone for listening, and let me know what you think.